First, giving all praises and honor to our Father, Yahweh Bashem Hamashiach Yahweh Shai. All praises due. Double honors to KD, my King, my Lord, my Shepherd, for the Wada King, for edifying the body in the truth and knowledge of who we are as a body. So shalom to my Rod of Iron and Israelite family. My name is Mahir Melika, and welcome to the Akwath channel, Daughters with Daggers, where we continuously seek edification from the truth of the scriptures. So I'm back to do part 2. We talked about part 1, the danger of bringing up children in a toxic environment. So we're going to go to part 2 of that, the destruction of toxic training. So we're in the destruction of toxic training, which is the actual title of this video, and this is part 2 of it. So lastly, what I was speaking of was we went over, we saw some videos where the child was smoking, the children were given marijuana to smoke. Also where the little boy was cursing at his grandma and his sister, cursing them out, being very, very dishonorable, actually. And then you have the little girl whose mom is encouraging her to twerk for tickets at Chuck E. Cheese. Those are toxic environments for our children, and it's something that been wanting to talk about, because it's stuff that's been popping up on our timelines. And I wanted to talk to you, my sisters, about, some things, because, it affects us as mothers, making sure that we are doing our due diligence to make sure that as princesses, because as princesses, we have a certain air about ourselves. We have to uphold ourselves in different ways than others. So in mentioning it, it's like we have to first discipline ourselves. We have to make sure that we are doing and learning and being taught also the ways that we should be as Israelite princesses. And we know that that's something that KD does for us as a body, as a whole, making sure that we have that instruction and that teaching. Now it's up to us to absorb that information, and it's up to us to put it to practice. So if we're not doing it, we can expect our children to do it, because we are their models. We are their teachers. We are the ones that they look at, and they look at us and they emulate us. And that's something that we need to take in consideration. We're at the end of the days. We're at the end of this captivity, and things are going to change. And we can't have that behavior coming over into our kingdom, because guess what? Auntie Mahir, and all the sisters and even the men of the Lord, we're going to have men of the Lord there. They're not going to go for that being disrespectful. They're not going to go for the children doing things that they're not supposed to do. We're all going to be a family in this, and you know what? There might be a moment they get a tap, because we want to make sure that they're getting the tools to be successful successful in this, right? So the first step is to discipline ourselves. So we went to Romans chapter 2, verse 21. And so let's go back to I would like to go back there. I know we went there before. Let's go back, because this is important. Nothing wrong with going back over it. So Romans chapter 2, verse 21. And it reads, "Thou therefore which teachest another, teachest thou not thyself? Thou that preachest a man should not steal, dost thou steal?" So in other words, if you are an alcoholic, I mentioned about my brother, and here it is, I'm trying to get you to teach somebody else about it, drinking. You can't, because you're doing the same thing. You're participating in the same thing. So how can you teach them on it when you're still needing to learn about it yourself, right? One other thing is, KD always talk about hot links. Hot links. Are you jumping from hot link to hot link? Our children imitate our actions, so if you're being promiscuous, if you're putting yourself out there, especially if you're having daughters and you having your princesses, your young princesses looking at you, you want to be mindful that you're not acting like a princess. That's a queen. Two different things. So a queen, as KD shared with us in some teachings, a queen is a hoe. And that's not what we are. We're princesses. We're daughters with daggers. We're joint heirs to the kingdom. Okay, so we have a certain way that we need to carry ourselves. Now, is this something that we knew in the past? No, we all have a past. We all have a history of things. However, once you know the truth, then that should come with a change. Your mind should change. Your actions should change. Okay, Con? So if you are, like I said, jumping from hot link to hot link, if you are putting yourself out there, thirsting for these things, you're going to get what you put out, right? You're going to get that back. However, do know that changes who you are. You're not a princess, you're a queen, okay? And that's not something that my sisters are. All my sisters are princesses, okay? But just taking that into consideration, if you are know anyone that's in this truth, that's doing these things, they might need to understand that it changes who you are. Okay? We're all princesses. We're not queens. There's a difference. Okay? So, want to share. So when I have these, when the Most High give me these teachings to teach to my sisters, these topics are first for myself. If there's no judgment, as I always tell my sisters, this is a no judgment zone. This is me coming from a place of understanding and also coming from a place where I've been there, done that, right? So example, speaking of, like my daughter. So my daughter, is from, KD is her father. I'm going to say that. But she has a biological father, that, helped, bring her into this world. Okay, so he was abusive. Okay, and that's streaming back to the way I was raised. So my father, who's still living this day, he was abusive to my mom. He was abusive to myself and my brother. And we grew up in that, right? So me growing up thinking that, what as women, as young girls, our fathers are the first men that we fall in love with. Our fathers are the first examples of what we should see a man in the Lord to be. Someone that's going to love us, guide us, that's going to teach us the right way, that's going to respect us, and that's going to lead by example for their family and provide, right? So those are the examples. Now, my dad provided. That was one thing. However, the emotional, social, the physical damage that he did, the love wasn't there, right? So he didn't know how to love us. So in growing up, as I became a young adult, I started seeking what I felt that I was missing from my dad. Because the examples I saw, I was like, I don't want that. However, because of it was in me, I would attract that. Okay. So for example, my daughter's biological father was very abusive. He fought me all the time. Of course, he wasn't there. I mean, my daughter was 2 when I finally was like, enough is enough, black eye, everything. And I realized in that moment that I have a little girl, I have my daughter. I know this is her biological father. However, I'm doing more damage because I don't want her to know or feel or think that she has to stay in something like this. I wanted her to know that she doesn't deserve this. This is not the first representation of a man that I want her to see. Because once we see that, it gets in here and we start to draw that. So, I did not want someone that was not portraying the man that I would want her to be with, to be around us. whether it was her biological father, whether it was even my father. You know, I had to, even though he treated her different, because, you know, grandparents, they sometimes change. However, just what she knows, I didn't want her to experience that, because I didn't want her to think that was okay, right? So when we allow toxic men into our life, and these are men that are not men of the Lord, you know, when we have that toxic man, whether we have kids by them or not, we have to take in consideration that when we do have kids, or when we do, or with our kids, what example are they presenting to our kids? What are they showing our babies? Already, you know, because they can continue to cause damage for our children. Because remember, we're wanting and we're needing people like a real true man of the Lord, or even ourselves, to be in their life exhibiting not a toxic environment. So if a man is doing that and he's bringing that, that's something to think about, because in the long run it is going to affect your children, and they're leading them by example. So they're learning the behavior from them. So we as women have to come to an understanding of, is this something that I want to continue on with? You know, especially if they're not a man of the Lord, they're not in this truth. You know, if they are a man of the Lord and they claim to be that, then they need to be speaking to some of the brothers, the ox, getting with KD, getting with the general. If they own all the Discord, all that, then they need to be speaking with them. So that's where their correction come from, right? So if they're claiming that, and if they're saying that, then they need to get with them. However, if they not in this truth, and they're not exhibiting anything that a man of the Lord is supposed to, that's something to think about, because our children are watching. Our children are absorbing those things. So we have to make a decision if it's a destructive environment for our children. And I know it could be a tough one, because it's something that I had to do. However, if I didn't do it, I wouldn't have known how the outcome would have been. Would I still been here? You know, because abuse gets worse. Whether I've been locked up in jail or been dead, one of the two. Would I met my best friend? Okay. The Most High, even though wasn't in the truth at the time, he knew that I was going to find who I was, and he knew who to place in my life to help lead me there, and also led him there, and became a great example of what a man, so our true man of the Lord, is supposed to be. Now, this is before the truth. However, it still was showing the love that he has for our daughter. I said our daughter because that's his daughter. The love that he has for myself, that was what continued to allow us to grow in as a family. Now, I can say it wasn't easy for them, even as a father, for him, you know, looking back at some times where he had to discipline his son, or even my daughter, you know, because, you know, in that connection, whenever you blending, there always is a moment, right? So for our son, you know, there were some things that he was doing in school, and you know, he had to discipline him on it. One thing I admired about it, because it wasn't a beating, it wasn't abuse, it was a moment of a dad showing his son that he loved him by correcting him. And when I say correcting him, was I need to talk to you about what you've done, and how, and what the repercussions are, what the consequences are. You know, because there's logical and there's natural consequences. So let me give you this logical consequence of what your actions were, right? So that took place. And yes, it was sad to see, you know, of course, cried. However, the hug after it. The reason I had to do this is because I love you. You know, that is huge, right? So sharing with our daughter. So our daughter, she has her car, she's driving, you know, they had a moment as a dad and a daughter. And she breaks down on the freeway, you know, and they both drive the same freeway coming home because they both worked, you know, a distance. So he saw her broke down on the side of the freeway. However, whatever the discussion that they had, the argument, he was like, okay, I have to teach her a lesson, the lesson of respect and a lesson of value, okay, and understanding. And so in that moment, you know, she saw him pass her up. And so she worked it out, okay, AAA and everything. However, when she got home, whatever, they had a conversation, she cried. She went to her dad and they worked whatever it was out. But she needed to have that moment and understanding because her heart was broken by her biological father. And she had to know, though, you've been blessed with someone else. You've been blessed with the father that the Most High really had for you. Okay? And that made their relationship a lot more tighter and stronger. Because of that correction that was done, that discipline time was done, was in love. It hurt. And then when they say it hurts me more than it hurts you, it does. But you know what? We have to do it. Because if we don't, the world will. Right? So, also, sisters, we have to be accountable. Okay, we've all done some things, you know. I used to club, I used to dance, you know. I'm not really a drinker, but if I do drink, it only take a couple of drinks. And I loved what I loved, you know. I never got high off of weed or anything. However, you know, my thing was I loved, like I said, I would have a cocktail with some friends. Or I would, you know, eat. You know, I love to eat. So everybody know me know I love to cook. But I was always, as a young lady, seeking that love from a man. Seeking that, because, you know, my father, I desire that. We desire that. We desire that intimate moment, that love. We desire that. That's natural. And seeking that in wrong people, in the wrong guys, that didn't mean me no good. And they knew that. They could smell it a mile away, right? So when we have these moments with our children, we have to be open, honest, and accountable. Because sometimes you can't do as I do, or, you know, or we hurt our children. You know, I have had conversations where, you know, people are adults now, but the relationships that they have with their mothers or even their fathers, mainly their mothers, you know, mothers expecting you to be like this, you know, oh, mom, I love you, thank you. However, you have to think about, you broke their hearts. You know, the love that they needed from you, they didn't receive it, right? And you know that. You can't keep saying, oh, I didn't know, I was a kid, I was this. Acknowledge that you made a mistake. Yes, I was a kid. I did not understand or know what I was doing. You know, sometimes I just need you to be honest and be open and be truthful and accountable. So let me give you some precepts for that, okay? So let's go to Luke chapter 6, verse 41. Luke chapter 6, verse 41. And it reads, and why beholdest thou the mote that is in thy brother's eye, but perceivest not the beam that is in thy own eye? Okay, so let's go to another precept. We're going to Matthew chapter 7, verse 5. Matthew chapter 7, verse 5. Drink some water. Okay, so Matthew chapter 7, verse 5, and it reads, thou hypocrite, first cast out the beam out of thine own eye, and then shalt thou see clearly to cast out the mote out of thy brother's eye. So we need to acknowledge what we did, and we need to be accountable for the things that we do and what we say. Sometimes you might not like the dad. The dad hurt you. And your child might look just like the father. But we take it out on that child. It's not her fault or his fault that they look like him. They didn't ask to be here. And what is that teaching them? And how is that helping them grow and develop? Because your gripe is with that person, not with the child. And so you're teaching them to come up as being, not open to receive love from others that really are genuinely trying to love them. And also you can damage that relationship because sometimes we're mad at that person because they didn't want to be with us. That had nothing to do with him wanting to be there for his child. I've often seen some women that become bitter because the man decided to move on. And we wind up the child suffering because we want to hold him accountable. We want to punish him, but we're punishing the child and not him. Because if he wants to have that relationship with his child, we should do that. Who are we to deny that? Only if he is causing destruction. If it's causing that child to be veered off to where the Most High want us to have our children, there's a difference, especially if they're not a man of the Lord. However, if that man is still trying to be there and build that relationship with their child, we should not be trying to deter him from that. Sometimes we put our own feelings and our own stuff onto our children. I've seen it, I've witnessed it, and that's something in the beginning I was starting to do. However, because of the abusive nature of the person and because this person really genuinely did not want to be there, we ghosted. we got out of that situation, and in order for us to get out of it, and it was just being me and her until the Most High brought me KD. So it's important for us to understand that we're not perfect. It's important for our children to know that. And it's important for our children to know that we make mistakes. Yes, mom did used to puff on it. I did used to smoke. Not me, I'm just saying. However, I'm telling you what it does. I don't do that any longer because the damage it does to your brain, or because it affects it affects your way of life and your way of living. It's not something that you need. What you need to do is open up your word. Let's get into this word together. The reason I get into my word, the reason that I'm in this truth of who I am, is because of Yahweh Bashem Hamashiach Yahweh Shai. And that's who guides and leads us and brought us this far. We're about to get out of this captivity, and I want us all to make it out of here together. But we have to start living it, transforming our mind and our thinking. Okay? And I always stress, I've been there. And none of us is perfect. No, by no means. We all come from something. However, once you get into this truth and you acknowledge this truth and you know who you are, it comes a time that you need to leave that other stuff alone, because you can't take it with you. You can't take the weed. You can't take the hopping on hot links to hot links. You can't take children being disobedient, disrespectful. Okay, we can't take our mouths being disrespectful to our men of the Lord. We can't take that with us. Everything that is something that's going to take you away or deter you from being with us in the kingdom, and also making that transition with us. You need to think about that. This is real. It's serious. I often see some people thinking like, oh, it ain't happened today, so I might as well do it. No, guess what? He's still taking account. That hasn't stopped. He's still documenting and writing. Okay, that hasn't stopped. So we need to, as sisters, check ourselves. We need to check each other. Check on each other. However, in love. And it has to be received. Okay? But it has to be done in love. Okay? So I just wanted to say, please, 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 let's check ourselves. Let's teach ourselves. Let's make sure that we are disciplining ourselves, so that we can then to discipline our children. Make sure our children are watching and watching us every day. They're looking to see how we handle situations. They're looking to see how we, how we're acting. They're looking to see, what we do. Okay? We can't expect them to not do what we do. That's something that, if we're fighters, I know a group of people that like to fight all the time. And it's like, then you wonder why your kids are fighting. Then your kids are fighting with you. And then you wonder why when they go to school, they having these fights. They're getting kicked out. They're getting suspended. They move from school to school to school because of their attitude, their anger, and they're angry and they're mad because they see that you're angry and mad. They don't know what to do with those emotions and feelings because they see that you don't know what to do with your emotions and your feelings, right? They don't understand we don't know how to handle ourselves. So when they see that we don't know how to handle ourselves, then we can't expect them to handle themselves, okay? So I hope and pray that you guys meditate on this word, okay? And you absorb it and you just allow it to be a part of you. It's what our Father wants us to be as princesses. Remember the difference. We're princesses. We walk with our heads held up high. We make sure that we follow what the word says. We try every day, right? We uphold ourselves as princesses. We're not queens, okay? We're princesses. That's amazing. You're amazing. We have to trust that we are. Know that we are. Love ourselves. It's time to do that. Love yourself. Let our children see that we love ourselves. Okay? And just love and just, and respect ourselves. So I would say, let's just take this moment because we are transcending, okay? We're transcending out of this captivity. It's time. Life is short. Time is short. So we can't wait because we don't even know when it's going to happen. It could be tomorrow. Oh, I hope so. It could be tomorrow. Are you ready? Are you truly ready? Okay, that's a question I want you guys to think of. I love you, Aquas, with my whole heart, and I want to see you guys with me. I want to be with you guys each day, cooking, eating, talking, teaching our kids, each other, learning from each other. It's going to be amazing. Okay, so thank you, the water, for the love. And I will see you soon. Shalom, my sisters. Love you, love you, love you.